You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
When it comes to mobile application security, good enough is a risk. A recent survey shows that 72% of organizations reported at least one mobile application security incident last year, and 92% of responders reported threat levels have increased in the past 2 years. GuardSquare delivers the highest level of security for your mobile apps without compromising performance, time to market, or user experience. Discover how GuardSquare provides industry-leading security for your Android and iOS apps at www.guardsquare.com.
A century ago, on March 16th, 1926, in a quiet farm field in Auburn, Massachusetts, just a bit south of where I'm recording from, in fact, Robert Goddard lit the spark that would carry humanity off of the planet. His first liquid-fueled rocket rose a few dozen feet into the air, and with that, Goddard launched an entirely new era. And here we are 100 years later, and that same spirit of experimentation and ambition is still shaping the future of spaceflight. And in fact, this week, that future got a major boost just a bit to the north of Auburn, Mass. Canada announced a historic investment in its Nova Scotia spaceport, signaling the nation's bold commitment to expanding its role in global launch capabilities and national defense. Space is no longer the hegemonic domain of just a few nations or a handful of pioneers in a lone cabbage patch. Truly, it is a growing, interconnected ecosystem. And a little fun bit of perspective for you. The distance from the field where modern rocketry all began with Robert Goddard's launch from Auburn, Mass., to NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland is roughly the same distance from Auburn to Halifax, Nova Scotia, this emerging launch hub. And it's the same distance when we're talking back of the napkin-y math anyway. All in all, it is interesting to me anyway, of how far the space industry has spread while still tracing its roots back to one small spot in Massachusetts, a spot that is now the 9th fairway of a local golf course of all the things. And from that first 2.5-second liftoff of a liquid-fueled rocket a mere 41 feet in the air 100 years ago, to a global network of spaceports and hundreds of orbital rocket launches a year, we are on a clear overall trajectory, aren't we? What started as a solitary experiment has become a shared global endeavor that captures the imagination of so many, yours truly included. Today is March 22nd, 2026. I'm Maria Varmazes, and this is T-Minus. My chat today is with Jeff Carr, who is the president of the Griffin Communications Group. Now, friends, I have to tell you, this conversation with Jeff is one of my all-time favorites that I've done here on T-Minus, because Jeff has had an incredible life and career, and he tells his stories very well. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say that there's a good reason I specifically wanted him to tell me his thoughts on the parallels between the United States and the space program in 1968 with Apollo 8 and with the upcoming Artemis II mission now in 2026. You will hear why in a moment. Here's our chat. Hi, it's Maria Varmazes here for T-Minus Space Daily. We are at Commercial Space Week in Orlando, Florida. And with me today is someone I've been looking forward to speaking to for quite a bit now, Jeff. It is really lovely to get to sit down and talk to you today. Thank you for coming in and joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a really exciting time in the space program and being at this event. It really just sort of is generating the sense of anticipation over some of the things that are, on our horizon, our near horizon.
Very, very close on our horizon, indeed. So that's what we're here to talk about today. But I definitely want to hear your story before we get into that, because it's so relevant to what we're going to be chatting about. So, Jeff, could you tell us a bit about yourself, please?
Well, I have had incredible good fortune to have had a front row seat to the most amazing human exploration endeavors in history. I was one of the original Apollo astronaut brats. My father was an Apollo Skylab astronaut. We grew up in the Apollo bubble around the Johnson Space Center, where our life was all about the moon.
Yeah.
Going to the moon, and what was happening outside that bubble was pretty profound. We had a country that was struggling.
Yeah.
And our focus was on the mission. When I say our, I mean the families.
Yes.
The astronauts were the leading edge, but the families were very much engaged, and we had a job to do as well. So haven't had that opportunity to, and I'm fortunate because I was old enough when my father was an Apollo Skylab astronaut that I understood what was going on. My younger brothers and sisters, not so much.
Yeah.
And I was knowledgeable enough, for instance, to be really angry when the networks made the decision not to cover my father's splashdown live, right? That was the first Apollo mission, actually the first mission since Gemini that was not covered live. And I think that moment was a pivot point for me and had a lot to do with where my career, began and took me.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about your career. There's so much there I want to unpack, but tell me a bit about your career. Yeah.
Well, I found myself in 1982, fresh out of University of Texas, as a television technical director for the NASA JSC TV contractor. And so within just a few weeks of starting at JSC, I found myself sitting in mission control, calling shots for NASA TV from the vehicle, from the ground, from the flight control room. I had never imagined a career in space.
Yeah. Even though you grew up around it, you didn't think you wanted to go into that.
Well, I think I was more affected by the power of the media. That,
interesting.
And what their ability to shape the stories that we Americans are internalizing about who we are and what's important.
Yes.
And it just struck me, particularly when, when my father finally flew.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't think I ever planned or expected to have a career at NASA.
Yeah.
But the opportunity to use my college degree, my interest in media, and my knowledge of and experience with the space program just kind of presented itself.
Yeah.
It was...
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me about your father a little bit?
We lost Dad a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He was probably the kindest man that I've ever known. He was a Marine fighter pilot, officer and a gentleman. He was a consummate team leader. And he taught me and all the rest of us a lot about, what we can really control in life.
Yeah.
And, he trained for a long time. He served as the Capcom for Apollo 8 and Apollo 12. And he trained a long time for his mission, which was Apollo 19.
Yep.
And Congress lost interest in funding the space program, and they canceled the last two missions of the Apollo program.
Yep.
So he missed his moonshot. His response to that, the way he conducted himself, the way he shifted his focus and priorities was, to me, an incredible lesson in character.
Yeah.
He kept his head up. He looked to the next thing coming down the pike. Eventually, Deke Slayton called him into his office and said, "Jerry, we want you to command the final Skylab mission, all rookie crew. Are you up to that?" And he's like, "Oh, hell yeah."
Brave man.
And there were so many lessons learned, through Skylab that have shaped the way we do in space science and long duration space flight. It wasn't the moonwalk that he counted on, but it was an opportunity to make a profound contribution.
Oh, indeed. We wouldn't be where we are today with the ISS without Skylab.
No.
It's shoulders of giants for sure. We'll be right back.
When cyber threats strike, minutes matter. Booz Allen brings the same battle-tested expertise trusted to protect national security to defend today's leading global organizations. They safeguard their data, strengthen enterprise resilience, and mobilize in minutes across energy, healthcare, financial services, and manufacturing. Their teams don't just respond, they anticipate, outthink, and stay ahead of evolving threats. This is powerful protection for commercial leaders, only from Booz Allen. See how your organization can prepare today at boozallen.com/commercial.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
We were talking a little bit about your experience in sort of the bubble as a kid and how much that also parallels where we are today.
Yeah.
And also, right now, Artemis II is on the launch pad, and we're awaiting its flight. And how much of what you grew up and experienced sort of parallels the moment that we're in right now. And that you have such a fascinating and unique perspective on that, especially when we think about this Artemis's place in the American and global psyche right now, the attention it is and isn't getting. I just wanted to hear some of your thoughts on that.
I wasn't fully aware of the depth of despair that so many Americans were living in the 1960s. I wasn't as acutely aware of the civil strife, unrest, unhappiness with an unpopular president, unhappiness with a Congress that wouldn't do its job, unhappiness with an unpopular war. Oh, wait, was that then? So a lot of my perspective was kind of came together later when I was older to look back and understand what was happening in the world. And looking at that retrospectively, it really dawned on me that Apollo 8 was a pivot point, not just for the space program, but for American pride.
1968.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a terrible year for the United States.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I'm really, really excited that we're going back to the moon.
Same here.
It's been too long.
Yeah.
My memories of Apollo 8, I was the same age as Alan and Glenn Anders. And, I spent a lot of time in their backyard, in their house during the mission. The astronaut families in the neighborhood kind of came together when one of them was off to the moon.
Yeah. Would you all look up at the moon and go, Dad's up there, basically?
Yeah.
God.
And it was, I was riding my bike home from around the corner from the Anders house to our house, and I just kind of stopped at the corner and I looked at the moon, and I knew that my dad was in mission control that night. It was the Capcom, so I hustled home and wanted to see the news coverage. And I'll never ever forget when he called the Apollo 8 crew. Apollo 8, this is Houston. You're go for TLI, go for the moon. And that's when I think that's when it really struck me. That's when I really realized that this was serious stuff. This was meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
And this was challenging stuff.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I can look back and see that it was an opportunity to remind Americans that we can do hard things.
Yes.
And I really hope to see Artemis II kind of engender the same impact.
That kind of healing, a little bit, national healing. I'm with you. I hope so too. When you mentioned the way you felt, going back to the beginning of our chat, about when the news did not cover your father's splashdown and how that made you feel, it really stayed with you. I can't help but also think about, more broadly right now, how much I know a lot of us who are very much into space and thinking about Artemis II and going, why are we not hearing more about this? Like, we're going back to the moon, for God's sake, and it seems like nobody cares. And I care. I was not alive during Apollo, so for me, this is the first time in my life I'm seeing humans going around the moon.
We're going to have 4 humans in a capsule that are going to dip behind the moon and be out of touch.
Yes.
Completely out of touch for 45 minutes.
I lose my mind when I think about how amazing that is.
Now, we've only done that once before. And I'm really, really proud to say that my dad's voice was the last voice that they heard before they went behind the moon. And it was the first voice they heard when they came around.
The best voice to hear, right?
In the right place.
That's right.
So they came back around the moon and entered low lunar orbit.
Yeah.
These guys that are going on this flight aren't going to orbit the moon in low lunar orbit.
Yeah.
They're going to, swing
way
around,
out.
And so it's a different, there's some differences, but there's just a lot of similarity in terms of what it means for the next steps we're going to take as a nation in space.
How do we recapture the imagination for the American public on this? What have we not done that we should be doing?
I think there's so much information that it's hard to zero in and find something that matters when you've got so many sources telling you what you should care about.
Yeah.
I think those of us in the space industry have to accept sort of maybe a family obligation among us to tell the story, to make sure that our sons and daughters and their friends and understand, what's going on here.
Yeah.
It's risky. What we're doing is risky, but if you can't accept and manage risk, you can't do great things.
Yeah. That we can do hard things, as you said, that we can, as a nation, that we can do hard things. Jeff, this has been one of my absolute favorite chats that I've had in a really long time. I just wanted to tell you, and thank you for telling me your story and your father's story. I've been really moved hearing what you've been sharing with me, so I just wanted to say that thank you, genuinely. And I wanted to make sure that if there's anything you wanted to leave our audience with, any thoughts that we haven't covered, by all means.
I just want to encourage people to look beyond the frustrations, look beyond the worries of the day during this mission, and let yourself be reminded that we are Americans, and that means something, and that we can still do hard things. Because if we don't believe we can do hard things, we're not going to find our way out of this mess we're in.
So well said. Thank you, Jeff. Sorry, I'm a little emotional, but thank you, Jeff. Genuinely, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really
This
appreciate it.
chat's going to stay with me a long time, so thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. And T-Minus crew, we are now releasing our show, as you've probably noticed, on a weekly cadence. And we are working hard behind the scenes still here on what the new T-Minus is transforming into. And as that work continues, we do want to hear from you about what you'd find useful as we shift to our weekly show format. space@n2k.com is our email address. We are reading all of your feedback, friends. And thank you to everyone who has written in so far. And please keep it coming. Greatly appreciate it. That's T-Minus Deep Space, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of our podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app, or you can send an email to space@n2k.com. We're proud that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K helps space and cybersecurity professionals grow, learn, and stay informed. As the nexus for discovery and connection, we bring you the people, the technology, and the ideas shaping the future of secure innovation. Learn how at n2k.com. N2K's lead producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I am your host, Maria Varmazis. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
If you only attend one cybersecurity conference this year, make it RSAC 2026. It's happening March 23rd through the 26th in San Francisco, bringing together the global security community for 4 days of expert insights, hands-on learning, and real innovation. I'll say this plainly, I never miss this conference. The ideas and conversations stay with me all year. Join thousands of practitioners and leaders tackling today's toughest challenges and shaping what comes next. Register today at rsaconference.com/cyberwire26. I'll see you in San Francisco.
Ever spend all day fishing and catch nothing? That's what happens to hackers when Cisco Duo's on watch. Every login, every device, every user protected. Cisco Duo. Phishing season is over. Learn more at duo.com.